All right, in today's video, I'm going to discuss how to properly disinfect a room. So once after all of your children have been picked up and they are no longer in the room, you are going to take your bottle of Clorox hydrogen peroxide and your paper towels. Now typically, if you have two staff in a room, you can both spray down and it saves you time. And so if you both start on one end of the room at the same time and you work your way around the room and you end up at the same place, then you know that everything has been sprayed. And then you can, you set your timer for 90 seconds. It's a minute and a half. You're waiting for the peroxide to kill the viruses and bacteria and germs and things like that. At that point, after 90 seconds, then you can go back and wipe down your areas. So the areas that you would clean, you are going to spray down every single counter space. You're going to spray down everything that has been touched around the sink, whether it's your paper towel holders, your sink faucet. You will make sure all of that's sprayed. You will spray down your chairs, your rocking chairs. You're going to spray down your table. You're going to spray down any of the toys that have been used. You're going to spray down, as well as your diaper changing table. You'll pull back the paper and make sure that is sprayed down, as well as these the walls and the outside of the walls, as well as your cabinet doors, anything that has been touched. Because the children have been touching those walls, and you just want to make sure that everything's been wiped down and cleaned. I would also spray down your diaper genie. If you have books that were used, you also need to spray down the surface of those books. As well as all of your windowsills. You want to make sure, because you've got littles that have been touching those windowsills, and you want to make sure that all those surfaces have been sprayed down. If you have a train table in your room, you want to make sure that's been sprayed down. Any of your flat surfaces with all of these toys that are out, all of this needs to be sprayed down, and thoroughly as well. If you have a fabric covered chair, you can still use the hydrogen peroxide, and it will disinfect the chair. If you had a class and chairs were used, you want to make sure that every single chair that a child sat in has been thoroughly sprayed. You also need to get the legs, because sometimes kids will hold on to the legs. This bin is actually supposed to not be on the floor, and it's supposed to live on the counter. And all of the toys are stored in places, typically away from the children. And then what that does is allows the staff to decide what gets placed, what gets played with. And so what that does is it allows the staff member not to disinfect every single toy that's on the floor or in the room. You've controlled what has been put out and what the kids play with, thus controlled what you know that needs to be cleaned. Or else you may have an entire box and bin of toys and you don't know what has been played with or what has been touched, and you have to disinfect the entire bin. So make it easy on yourself as a staff member or volunteer, and keep those toys stored away from the children, and then you are the gatekeeper of what toys get pulled out and when. I mean, yeah, you would have to you would have to spray down every single ball, every flat surface, as well as your door handles on every single door, as well as your outside door, as well as your light switches. You want to make sure that your cabinets, if any of your staff or volunteers touch any of these cabinet pulls or drawer pulls, you want to make sure that those have been sprayed and then wiped down. Remember, you have to wait 90 seconds, a minute and a half, before you wipe everything down. And as well as when you're wiping down, make sure that you're thoroughly wiping down, and that you don't leave this spray on there and not wipe it down, because then it makes a sticky residue that's no good, and you want to make sure that that's wiped down. And that is how you thoroughly disinfect a classroom.